the first time I ever used Webex to host a meeting, I used it for training that back when we did Workday. And at the time, we did not have an account with Webex or anything, but I had to train some of the HR partners out in the Panhandle on Workday. And so instead of having them drive all the way to Lincoln, I signed up for I think at the time it was maybe a 2-week free trial of Webex, and took advantage of that to train those HR partners that were in Western Nebraska. And so knew very little about it, but it served its purpose. And like many others, I was really thrust into using, and our whole team was using Webex with the COVID situation. So, I joined in early March, and then COVID hit, and suddenly many of us are working remotely. And so we started utilizing Webex, and it's been a learning experience. But it's been a great tool to have at our disposal. And so I guess a few things, pointers or tips that I would suggest if you haven't hosted before, or if you're just getting started with using Webex. I'm not going to get into the logistics of setting up a meeting. I think Denny is going to do a demonstration on that. But I would say, if like anything, practice, become familiar with the tool, especially if you've never done it or if you are unfamiliar with it. That's one thing I did, and I know others did, is just getting in there and setting up and look at the different settings. There's some great resources out there on the Webex help that you can utilize as well. But the more you use it, the more comfortable you will become with it. And so, there's Renee talked about the chat feature. That's how we're getting questions during this time, is through the chat. There's also you can do poll questions. You can do different. You can raise your hand digitally, and all these different types of things. So just become familiar with the tools, and as you do that, then you're going to be better equipped as you host those meetings. Another thing I would say is think about the type of meeting that you're going to be hosting. Renee mentioned, events and training as well. So in Webex, you can set up a meeting, you can set up an event, or you can set up a training, and each one's a little bit different, and they have different functionality. And the focus of this one is meetings, but just so that you're aware, this today was set up as an event. And so event gives us different options when we set it up. So we're able to have it so when everyone comes in, they're automatically muted, and then the attendees cannot unmute themselves. And we do that because of the size of the group, and it just allows us to manage it better. It's not that we don't want people to ask questions. We do want questions, but just when we have 100 plus people in something like this, to be able to manage it properly, that's the best way to set it up. But if it's a meeting where it's maybe a more intimate setting, a smaller group, we use it for our team meetings every Monday morning. Katie, Renee, and I, we have a team meeting, and we use Webex meetings. And that's much more informal. But if you have something that maybe is more formal, or a training, but you're setting it up as a meeting, but it's still going to be a training, just be aware think about how you want it set up, the different functions you want in there, how you're going to use the different tools within Webex as you become familiar with the tool, and then communicate that out to the attendees as well. With our team meetings on Mondays, Renee, Katie, and I, we're pretty familiar with it, so I don't really have to worry about that. But if it's something that maybe I'm going to have people in there that aren't familiar with Webex, what do I need to communicate out to them and make sure that they're aware of? And if you can, something like this, it may not be practical with the size, with how big it is, for everybody to have their cameras on. Those of us on the panel, we have our camera on, but as attendees, that wouldn't be a requirement. But in our team meeting, we have our cameras on, and since we're physically distant, it allows that connectivity there. During my time at Fiserv, I managed 12. I had 12 trainers that reported to me, but none of them were in Lincoln. They were all remote. So when we'd have meetings, sometimes we would have our cameras on when we were doing those remote meetings. Sometimes we didn't. And I can tell you, when the camera's on, you're more engaged. Just mentally, people are going to be more engaged. It's easier to get distracted or kind of do other stuff when the camera's not on you. It's easier to maybe tune out. And so if the bandwidth is there, have cameras on, but understanding that may not always be possible or practical. And one of the big things I would say also is the muting and the unmuting. If you're joining a meeting, even if it's say just 10 people, if you're not speaking, it's a, you know, make sure the attendees understand kind of the logistics or the etiquette expectations of the meeting. I saw somewhere, I don't remember, it was recent, but being unmuted on a Webex call is basically the new reply all. And so if you've ever been guilty of or seen someone do the reply all, which I was guilty of doing last month or a few weeks ago in state personnel. And so I just owned it and made fun of myself with the whole thing. But anyway, when I was at Fiserv, I was on a call one time. It was a team meeting with our vice president, and he was speaking, and somebody was doing dishes. And he kept pausing and saying, "If you're not muted, please mute yourself." And the person never muted themselves, and so it was disrespectful to him and to everybody else in attendance. And clearly, the person was not paying attention. If they're being asked to mute themselves, but they continue to not mute themselves and do dishes. So just make sure your attendees are aware of the etiquette, especially if they're not familiar with Webex as well. But that's really, I guess, a little bit about my background and my experience and the advice I would pass on to you at this time.
Great, thank you, Brian. Tracy, you're up.
All right, well, the first thing to do is unmute because I have a habit of talking when I'm muted. So glad I got that first step out of the way. And probably that'd be my advice is yes, mute, but please make sure that you unmute when you have something to say, because we definitely want you to speak when we're on a WebEx. I'm Tracy Poppy. I am a training specialist for the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm working on my 16th year with the state, so I'm excited about that. I've been using WebEx actually for several years now, but mostly in the last several months, probably the most. Mainly working with our new employee orientation, as well as right now we are rolling out the new Medicaid expansion for Health and Human Services. And so we have been running WebEx trainings, not so much meetings, but trainings, because that's what we're delivering. We're delivering some training, and we have some other features with that we need. However, we do use WebEx meetings for our team meetings. So they're pretty much the same with a few little differences. Like I said, we've pretty much been using WebEx for our new employee orientation and trainings of Medicaid expansion, but I've also used it with supervisors and other training groups. Right now, I'd agree with everything Brian said. And working from home, I'm glad that we have WebEx, or if we're working remotely, it's nice to have WebEx. It's a good program. Once you get to use it and know it, it becomes a lot easier. So be patient, reach out if you need assistance. Definitely use Chrome or not Internet Explorer because it does cause issues. So welcome today. I hope you get a lot out of it. And please remember to write down your questions so we can get those answered if we don't throughout the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. Jacob.
Howdy, my name is Jacob Jones, and I am one of the video conferencing experts for the state. I handle primarily the software and administrative side of WebEx, along with my supervisor, Bert, who wasn't able to make it here today. I've been working with WebEx for a bit over 2 years now, and it's basically my whole job. So if you have any sort of issues or troubles when it comes to WebEx, I'm typically the guy who's going to be looking into it for you. And I'm also the one who sets up all of the accounts when you request them through the service portal. We do have a dedicated service request for that in the service portal. So if you go to our service catalog and you search WebEx, there's going to be a request WebEx account request in there for you to fill out. Because we'll need a job code and work order number and stuff like that that you'll need to fill out for that form for us to get it set up as quickly as possible. Brian actually covered most of what I was thinking as well. The biggest thing I would toss up on top of that is most of what I know about WebEx I have learned from experience, from Bert, but mostly from help.webex.com. And if there's any sort of new problem I've encountered or some sort of issue I've had with WebEx, typically if I go to help.webex.com, it answers a whole ton of questions I have. It has tutorials on first-time uses and a lot of handy user guides that you can look into. Beyond that, that's about my whole piece.
Great. Thank you, Jacob. Denny, you're up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a tour?
Sure. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. As Renee said, hopefully you find this helpful. My name's Denny Campbell. I'm the Training and Staff Development Supervisor for the Nebraska Board of Parole and Division of Parole Supervision. If I look a little distracted, it's because I'm trying to actually join the meeting I'm going to show you on my other computer. So I'm multitasking, which we all know doesn't work, but just realized I'm going to need a participant in there to show you some of your host functions. So I've been with parole and corrections since 2009, really been heavy in the training role since about 2012. Got voluntold to become a trainer for something and ended up really loving it, figuring out that's what I want to do pretty much forever. I've been working heavily with WebEx since March 16th. Parole went into modified operations on that date, and I've been working almost exclusively from home since then. One of the neat things that WebEx does when you're in the website is it can show you statistics about how much you use it. And I looked mine up just a minute ago. I was a little depressed to see that I've hosted about 200 meetings since that time for about 12,000 minutes worth of meeting time, which is 8.5 days spent hosting WebEx meetings. So I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks how to use this thing for the most part. Jacob's right, there are some great resources out there. For myself, I've just got to dive in and get my hands in stuff. So what I'm going to walk you through here is a couple different ways to set up a meeting. We're going to look at setting it up through the nvcn-cio.webex.com website, which is something everyone has access to. We're also going to look at how to set up a meeting using Microsoft Outlook, which is my preferred method because it's fast and easy, and I'm used to setting up meetings that way already. In order to use Outlook, you're going to have some IT support to get the WebEx integrations installed. So if you're interested in that, work through your process. And that's kind of what we're going to look at. So I'm going to share my other monitor with everybody here. It's a good start. Shared the right one this time as opposed to all of my other apps. So this is kind of the sign-in page. This is where you should land when you go to nvcn-cio.webex.com. And you can copy down that alphabet soup of a link from the address bar that you see on my screen if you'd like. It is important that you use that to sign in to WebEx. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it already. Please don't go to just plain old webex.com. And I would encourage you very strongly to share that with your participants as well, that that's not the right way to handle WebEx or to request an account. You can actually cause some problems using the general public WebEx site. So nvcn-cio.webex.com is where you want to be. And then simply click sign in. Mine's going to take me probably straight in because I've signed in several times this morning. Normally, it's going to redirect you out to the general state logon page, and you'll utilize your state email address, including @nebraska.gov, and the password that you utilize to access your email. Those will typically be your credentials to get into your Webex account. So from here, this is the home page. I have two options really. I can start a meeting immediately and then invite people into a meeting already in progress, or I can schedule a meeting for a later date. I do a lot more scheduling of meetings than I do starting instant ones, but it is really useful to be able to just launch that right away. So I'm going to start with scheduling. Simply click on schedule. Eventually it loads, brings you to this screen. For myself, I've always simply left Webex Meetings Pro 1000 as the meeting type. Webex Personal Conference prompts you to set some additional things up, and I've never had need for it. Give your meeting a name. We've all had a few of those. It's a meeting that should have been an email. And then you invite people into your meeting simply by typing their email address into this attendees bar. One thing to be aware of is if you're inviting people who don't have an account and it's the first time that you've invited them, they're not going to just autofill. So be very certain that you have the address typed in correctly. If I invite myself at nebraska.com, it will absolutely let me invite Dennison.Campbell at nebraska.com and not tell me there's anything wrong with that, which we all know there is. So be cautious in inviting your people. Make sure you get those correct. Once you've invited somebody a couple of times, though, they'll start to pop up in your recent invitees, which is very handy if you're routinely hosting meetings with the same people. That's really all you need to do. From there, you can just click start, or if you change the date and time, which I should probably show you how to do. Simply click on the date and time. It pops up a very easy to use calendar and clock system. One thing I'm not a huge fan of in the website, because it's not how it works in Outlook, is that it just asks you to set the start time and the length. It doesn't let you do the start and end, and my brain doesn't work that way, so it annoys me. Do be very careful about the AM PM. I have more than once accidentally set a meeting for 8:30 PM because we were in the afternoon when I was scheduling it, and it's going to default to whatever time of day it is currently. So watch out for the AM PM when you're doing your scheduling. It's 1 hour by default. You can set it in 10-minute increments, however you'd like to do it. Don't overthink this about how long my meeting needs to be, because it's not going to like boot you out of the meeting just because you hit the scheduled end time. As much as sometimes you might want that meeting to automatically end when you hit its scheduled end time. There are some advanced options. I personally don't use these a lot. One that is pretty helpful. Sorry, lost my spot there. If you want to record your meeting under your scheduling options, you can set a box to automatically start the recording. And then as soon as you start the meeting, it just jumps right into that. You can also change how long before the meeting you allow people to connect, which can be really useful for a large meeting if you don't want people just hanging out in your meeting lobby forever. Last one I want to show you is under attendee privileges here. I can change what I allow people to do in the attendee privileges. And in the meeting options, I can decide what they have access to. I cannot from here automatically turn off video for everyone at this point. I will show you how to do that because it's really helpful as a host. When you're done, just hit schedule. And
Jenny, if I can add one thing, I changed the password. That's just a personal preference. I usually change it to something easy like welcome, but that's just, again, a personal preference. Just because if you have to share the password, it's easier to remember. But
that's a good point, Tracy, and thanks for adding that.
Sure, no problem.
if you're going to use Webex to host meetings that are confidential and you don't want to allow people to invite others in by forwarding your invite on, you can also hide that password entirely from the meeting invite. And then you'll need, by using this exclude password from email invitation, and then you'll need to communicate to your participants individually what that password is at the time of the meeting. It's useful, like I said, if you want to lock that down for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to actually start a meeting I previously had scheduled, and I want to show you some host functions in there. So if it's a scheduled meeting, it's going to appear in your upcoming meetings feed here. If you're like me and you have a boatload of them, you can view a longer list by clicking meetings on the left. And that'll show more of your options. So I'm going to start this meeting. I'm also going to join this meeting. Make sure I mute myself on the other. Awkward. Now you all see me twice. Neat.
Luckily, you're very handsome, so it's not a problem.
I just really wanted to show you my giant Raiders flag in two different views at the same time. All right. There we go. Now, what I'm sharing with you now is my meeting window. Hopefully this looks very familiar to you from having signed in and used WebEx meetings in the past. You can see I'm here twice. I am over there as well. The first thing I want to show you how to do is mute that annoying person Brian was talking about who's not paying attention and won't mute their microphone and has band practice going on in the background. You come over here and you just click their microphone. And I can mute and unmute all of my attendees that way as a host. I can also manage their video here in the meetings menu by clicking meetings,
Danny,
options.
Yep.
Yes.
the screen that we're seeing is just your face, not the.
Oh,
thing.
I don't know why that is. I apologize.
Yep, not seeing shared content.
Well, that's not ideal. I apologize for that, folks. I'm not sure what's going on because it's telling me I'm sharing my meeting window.
The one thing we always want to remember with WebEx is patience. Right? Things happen and it's a big system.
There we go.
Oh, sorry about that. I do know what I did wrong. I was sharing my meeting window inside the meeting that I'm trying to show all of you, as opposed to sharing my meeting window in this event. So that's why I'm not sure about that.
Experts on here will blame him, though.
Experts. So what I was trying to demonstrate to you is if I have participants, I can mute and unmute them by clicking their microphone over here in this panel. I can also manage their video using meeting options, and I can disallow video for everyone by unchecking this box and hitting OK, and that will shut video down for all of my participants. That's really, really handy when you have someone with a bad connection and it's degrading your whole meeting. One of the things that WebEx does is it tries to accommodate everyone. So WebEx is going to reduce itself down to your worst connection, basically, and it's going to drag everybody down to that. So if you're finding that happening and it's causing problems with your meeting, this is one of the first things I would encourage you to do is come to this meeting tab, options, and then turn off everyone's video. They can, of course, turn it off manually, but if you got a lot of people, it's much more efficient to just do it for them. Once I've gotten into my meeting, I can also check mute on entry, and everyone who joins this meeting after me will automatically be muted. You can see they're grayed out because I have no participants, but these are also very handy functions in mute all and unmute all. Not so much the unmute all. I don't really ever want everyone unmuted at the same time, but mute all can be very useful for getting people in. I mentioned that you can launch meetings instantly and invite people later. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go back to NVCN and start a new meeting because I can do the same thing from the one I'm already showing you. There's three ways really, two easy ways to invite people into your meeting in progress. One is to use the participant menu and simply click invite and remind. And you can type their email address right in here, or you can utilize your local email, whatever your default program is, which for all of you should be Outlook, and it will actually launch a meeting invite through that. If I want to email directly from the system, I click email and type the address. Again, you have to be careful here that you're typing the address correctly. I can also invite someone by phone, which is Brian's preferred method of joining meetings, is to have the Webex meeting actually call him. If I have someone who's not able to connect by computer, I know corrections is using this to actually have providers connect with inmates during COVID-19 because there's phones on the housing units, but not computers that are accessible. I can type the phone number right here, give the person a name and hit call, and they will actually receive a phone call from Webex and join the meeting that way. So a lot of different ways to get people into your meeting.
And I just want to toss in that is the preferred method for people to join by phone. There is, when you send out invites to people, an option for them to call in. But something to note with that option is that we have experienced more issues with calling in the past, and standard like U.S. toll rates may apply. So you can circumvent that by having the system call you instead.
Yeah, and it's a really handy feature. I can do all of those same things using the little more options down here in the meeting controls across the bottom. Simply click that, and then again, invite and remind. The other way to invite people to your meeting, if you want to do something super fast, maybe through your Skype Messenger, or if you're on Microsoft Teams, or excuse me, Webex Teams, something like that, you can simply hit copy meeting link, and then you can paste that directly into a Skype message and send it to someone. They simply click the link and they're right into your meeting. So several ways to invite people in to a meeting that's in progress. Does any of the rest of the panel have favorite features inside the meeting that they want to be sure that our audience is aware of as hosts?
I do. I'll throw one out. One of my favorite features is to take off the tone when somebody comes in and out of the meeting. We've all been, yes, that one. We've all been on those where people are coming and going, and there's this annoying beep when people come on and when they leave. If you uncheck that, people can come and go silently without driving everybody else nuts. So that's my favorite.
Especially in those bigger meetings, for sure.
Yep.
That's a great one. So yeah, simply unchecking that box, and now you don't get the beep when people come in. I use that one, and I use mute on entry a lot. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to add, if you mute on entry, the participants can unmute themselves, correct? But
Yes.
if host mutes during the meeting or the presentation, from my understanding, the participant cannot unmute themselves. We've had that experience.
My experience with that has been a little different. That's definitely true in WebEx events and WebEx trainings.
Gotcha.
But my participants in meetings have always been able to unmute themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been my experience too in meetings.
A feature that is a little more esoteric and might not be used as much, but I have been asked about in the past is I get requests for reports on the chat and Q&A after a meeting has been completed. This has to be saved before the meeting is over, and you can go to File and Save As, and that is where you can locate. Typically, he doesn't have any chat up, so that's why it's grayed out. But that's where you can save chat and Q&A and stuff if it has any content in it, and it'll save in, I believe, a text document, but I don't use it as often. But that is where you can locate that, and it has to be done before the meeting ends, or else it's just gone.
All right, do you have a few questions if the panel is ready to move on to the Q&A portion?
Renee, if I could, I'll show real quickly how to use Outlook.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get my email up here. All right, everybody's seeing my Outlook, hopefully. Not sharing the wrong screen.
Sure am.
It's the Outlook.
All right, very good. So again, I can launch an instant meeting with Webex by clicking Meet Now. This is from the home, same place that you would create a new email or schedule any kind of regular meeting. Simply click that. It's going to take me straight into a meeting. What I use an awful lot more often is Schedule Meeting. And it's going to bring up an email that I believe you're all pretty familiar with. It does take a moment as it connects up to Webex. Very standard, normal Outlook meeting invitation. The best thing about this in my book is that it utilizes the state directory. So if I'm not sure exactly what someone's email address is or how to spell their name, I can search for them. We all know how to handle that function. So I could just click Renee and invite her right into this meeting. She's set to do not disturb, but I'm going to bother her anyway. Everything else is exactly what you're familiar with. You can do recurring meetings using the website. I find it significantly easier to do recurring meetings from here. You manage your recurring meetings just like you manage any other recurring meetings, and it handles it for you. You have limited ability to change settings when using Outlook. If you need some of those more sophisticated advanced settings, you'll need to schedule through the website. But I can do some basic things here, such as setting an alternate host, which can be very handy. One thing to be aware of with your meetings is if you don't have an alternate host, only you or the meeting creator can launch and start that meeting. Something very important to keep in mind, if you have support staff who are scheduling your meetings for you, your support staff person is going to have to launch that meeting unless you're tagged as an alternate host. So keep that in mind. All you do is check the box. Very simple.
And do you have to have an account to be a host?
You do. You do have to have an account to be a host, Tracy. Thanks for adding that. What Renee will get that's different is your standard WebEx meeting invite. Instead of saying join meeting, for Renee, it will say start meeting. And it'll let her actually launch the meeting. So I know that's very quick. I think the group's probably pretty familiar with scheduling meetings in Outlook. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. If you want to jump to Q&A, Renee.
There is a part that I need to toss in here. To get this WebEx integration, you will need to download the Cisco WebEx Meetings app. That can be found for most departments in the software center on any device, or if you can't find it there, it can be downloaded if you have admin rights at nvcn-cio.webex.com. If for some reason downloading the WebEx app does not integrate with Outlook, we have had some recent issues, and the solution is downloading what is titled ENT Cisco WebEx Productivity Tools. And that can also be found in the Software Center or under downloads at nvcn-cio.webex.com.
Awesome.
All right, let's hit some questions. We have quite a few. First of all, it's not so much a question, but just kind of a general statement. Jacob, you mentioned how to request an account which is just through the OCIO service portal, searching Webex, and there is actually a specific category for requesting a Webex account, and that a work order and a job code is needed. Not all team members are going to have those numbers readily available. So a couple of folks asked us just to remind everyone that the OCIO does need that information. If you don't have it, check with your supervisor or whoever purchases supplies or things like that in your area, and that person will have that information and can help you get that set up. So with that, let's go. The first question is, can you show how to share content from the meeting? Because I know, Denny, you shared your screen. Can you show us real quickly how that's done?
You bet. And let's start a meeting real fast. Doesn't like me very much because it says I have another meeting in progress. Okay, is everybody seeing my meeting window now? Very good.
Yes.
So to share content, you can come down here to the controls across the bottom. This is normally how I use it, and simply click the little arrow coming out of the box, and it'll give you a huge range of options here. If you want to share just one program, then you choose the program that you would like to share. For example, my Microsoft Outlook. If you'd like to share your whole screen, you can share the screen and everything on it. That's usually how I'm sharing, because I have more than one program that I want to show people. If I'm bouncing between, say, a PDF document and a PowerPoint presentation, it's much easier to share the whole screen and just drag your programs in and out that way. Otherwise, you have to come and hit share every time. If you would like to share any kind of streaming media, like a YouTube video or something like that, you can do so. You need to change this dropdown from optimize for text to optimize for motion and video, and be sure share your computer audio is checked. If this box is unchecked, your participants will see your video, but they won't hear any of the audio coming through it. So that's a feature that I just found recently that's been super useful for me. I want to show you how to share one other thing that's not on that menu, and that's the actual meeting window that you're looking at right now. So if I click share up here and then choose share the meeting window, my participants would see what you're all looking at now. And that's super helpful if you need to show a participant during a meeting how to do exactly what I just showed you how to do, share content. I regularly have people share screens with me and they're not sure how to do that. So by sharing my meeting window with them, they can actually see all of my controls, which normally they wouldn't be able to do if I were just sharing my screen, because it automatically hides the meeting window.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, we're getting a ton of questions in. This one is there a way to change the join from saying my personal room, because it seems kind of creepy?
I agree.
Which I disagree with at all.
I actually make a lot of jokes about. I didn't realize it actually said that to people until I was onboarding my first new hire exclusively through Webex, and she's like, "Why do you keep sending me these creepy emails?" One way to get around that is to actually schedule the meeting instead of launching an instant meeting, and then it'll get that more traditional meeting invite. You can schedule just 5 minutes out, and it'll have basically the same effect. Another way to do that is when you not sure it's going to let me do this while I'm in a meeting. This one. Sorry. Holy cow. computer just had a major freak out. Yeah, so if you're using the personal room invite, you can change the subject line to something other than that. What you can't do though is delete this join me in my Webex personal room. So if it appears below the line that says do not delete or change any of the following text, then that piece you've got to leave alone. You can change the email subject line. But the easier way to avoid that is to use the schedule Webex meeting instead of the personal room invitation.
All right. Our next question is, our agency is currently trialing Webex. We've noticed that it works okay for small meetings, but once we get up past 6 to 8 or more people, the sound and video quality starts to get very poor. Have you noticed this problem? Is there a setting somewhere in Webex that would help avoid this?
I'm going to defer probably to Jacob on this one. I agree that is a problem. What we do for our larger meetings is we just disable video, and that tends to help quite a lot. If you're really having problems, what we've had to do in a couple of cases is actually have everyone connect by phone, and that minimizes the bandwidth drag if you're also trying to share content at the same time. But Jacob, do you have other tips on how to manage those?
That's I was gonna say mostly what you just suggested there. Sadly, WebEx can be limited by people's personal internet, and so as you said, stopping people from sharing their video or joining by phone and basically treating it like a phone conference can help in those sort of instances. If you have any people with like personal issues where it seems like one person is having the issue or multiple people are, you can go to the top of your WebEx window and go to Help and Health Checker. And this will, if you do a summary, it'll tell you exactly where the problems are going on if the system detects some high degradation in quality. Perfect.
In your meeting, help, and then health checker and summary.
And that'll tell you exactly where the issues are coming from, at least to help isolate what the issues are. These kind of pages are also very helpful. So if you are experiencing regular issues personally, go ahead and supply this information if you're seeing any red or problems with that.
One thing that I have noticed too, just as a personal thing, if you have people who are connected to the state network via VPN, if they disconnect from VPN, we've had a lot more luck because you don't need VPN to participate in a WebEx meeting. You just need an internet connection, and getting rid of that VPN has helped us quite a bit.
One thing that Bert shared at the last Ask the Experts that we did from this health checker was if your participants are looking at this, which is the advanced audio and video statistics from that health checker, and you see TCP instead of UDP here, that's probably what's causing the issue. I'm not going to pretend I understand all the technical details like Bert did, but basically there's a security setting on their personal internet that is interfering, and it's never going to be a great connection. So if you have a user who's in that mode, that's what's going to need to get resolved.
Great. We have a did you know fact from Ron. Hi, Ron. He said that in a regular Outlook meeting invite, if in the location you type at WebEx, it will set up a WebEx meeting for you as well.
That is very true.
Thank you, Ron.
That's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, simply a normal meeting. at Webex. And it takes a little bit to connect up sometimes, but once you send that meeting invite, it will catch up to the system and include the Webex meeting details in that.
Okay, the next question is, will Webex prevent you from accidentally scheduling a meeting that conflicts with an existing one?
No.
If you do it via Outlook, it typically will. If you have a meeting in that Outlook slot, it'll work just as Outlook always has, and it'll say that you have a meeting taking place at the same time as this one. But if you do it online, it definitely will not take into account your Outlook schedule.
You can see on my screen here, I actually have overlapping WebEx meetings that are both scheduled right there. Yep. So it'll prompt you, like Jacob said, but it won't stop you. That reminds me of one thing that caused me a problem recently. If whatever system you use to schedule the meeting, if you want to later edit that meeting, you have to use the same system. So if I schedule a meeting through the website, I can't edit that meeting through my Outlook, and vice versa. I can't edit a meeting I scheduled in Outlook through the website. So if you're running into a problem where it won't let you make changes, that is the first thing I would encourage you to take a look at.
Very good. The next question is very simple. Why Chrome?
Because it works.
Because it works. That's about it. Chrome or Firefox, Internet Explorer, Webex, the Cisco has simply decided not to support Internet Explorer, and that is just how it is.
Yep. We have found a lot of times when people are having trouble, most often it's because their default internet browser is set to Internet Explorer. And so that's what popped up, and that's what's giving them problems. So that solves most of the problems we've come into contact with. Next question, is there a way to do breakout groups within a meeting?
There's not.
That is a feature that Cisco has been discussing that should be coming to meetings soon, but is currently not implemented.
If you need breakout rooms, my preferred environment for that is WebEx trainings. It works very well. I know Tracy uses that very extensively, but that's a more suitable if you need to do that sort of thing.
Very good. Next one. For those of us who have support staff set up meetings for us, does the support staff need to have the email addresses for the attendees? Also, if I did not set up the meeting myself, will I have access to all of the features that have been explained so far?
No, not to the best of my knowledge, at any rate. Jacob, please, if you know different, please feel free to jump in. But the creator is the one who has the advanced controls.
Correct. Yep. The WebEx host needs the host will have all of those advanced controls and will not be able to control meetings. I believe if they are assigned as an alternate host, that can help. But yeah, typically it has to be a host handling these meetings.
Once you're in the meeting, the alternate host can access the features I showed you inside the meeting, like disallowing video and muting all. In fact, anyone who you designate as a host can access those types of features, but the options available during scheduling are only available to the meeting creator. There is a way to, in the same way that you can delegate your Outlook to a support staff person and give them the ability to schedule things as you, there is a way to do that with WebEx. It's not something I'm super familiar with, but Jacob mentioned help.webex.com at the outset of this presentation. Go there, search for that type of function, and I'm sure you'll find something very quickly. That may give you more abilities to interact with those meetings that your support staff are creating on your behalf.
right, next question. Is Webex trainings a separate license?
It is not. If you have a Webex account, then you have access to all of the features, even if you don't know that you have access to them. They are located, well, this jumps me straight in. It did not. This is that logon page I was talking about. Of course, it let me bypass it when it would have been useful to show it to people, but not now. There we go. Meetings and trainings events and trainings are just right down here on the left-hand side of your menu. Clicking on one of those will take you into a different menu where you can then create an event or join an event in progress using an event number. Same thing for trainings.
Awesome. Can an invite propose a new meeting time like in Outlook?
I don't know the answer to that one. Anybody else?
I believe if the meeting was scheduled via Outlook, it works just like an Outlook invite, and they can do it there. But in Webex itself, if you schedule on the website, that is not an option. No.
All right. And Denny, we had a request for you to show how to copy the link for the meeting and send it via Skype one more time.
Absolutely. I did just pull up a meeting that I didn't create that I've been invited to that was created through Outlook and Jacob's Right. I do have all of my normal Outlook options here, including propose new time. So it appears that that would be an option as long as the meeting was created through Outlook. Get my Skype up here. So to do this, I have to actually be in a meeting. So let me start one real quick here. It says I have too many meetings in progress. There we go, have that meeting going. So 2 ways to copy the meeting link. First one, 3 ways. Come down here, click the 3 dots, copy meeting link. You can also do the same thing. Holy cow, there we go. From the participant list, copy meeting link, or by clicking this little icon here and actually, that disappeared. I'm not sure where that one went. So utilize participant and copy meeting link or the other options. You can see it's been copied to my clipboard. From there, simply pull up a Skype message to whoever you're trying to send it to, paste it into message box, and send it as you would any other Skype message. In this case, I should probably tell my boss not to join that Webex meeting.
Thank you. Next question is, how do I get a Webex training set up for me? Do I need to submit a ticket to the OCIO or to my agency help desk?
I believe, I don't know if you've already sent those out, Renee, but there are some quick guides that have been made that should be sent out to all of you either before or after this meeting. Those will give you most of the information you need, along with help.webex.com. If you need further personal training, you can submit a request to the OCIO, but time may be billed for any further training beyond those.
Quick plug for the Linda button or the LinkedIn bundle here.
There we go.
My agency is a subscriber to. You're welcome, Renee.
Thank you, Denny.
Help.webex.com is a great resource. I absolutely love the 3 top courses here that are available from Linda. They're all great. If you're wanting basics, it's 45 minutes on learning WebEx in general. If you want to get involved with those breakout rooms and learn how to use WebEx trainings, this is a really good course. It's long because trainings can be complicated. It's almost 3 hours in length. And then learning meetings, which will help you with a lot of the host stuff as well, is going to be about an hour. Those are all available if you have a subscription through your agency to the LinkedIn bundle.
Yep, and also I know a lot of employees do trainings through link.nebraska.gov and the Employee Development Center. If you do have a subscription there or you do have training set up there, if you go there and search for trainings, they definitely do have programs for WebEx.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We're at 10:03, so we are going to go ahead and stop there. Those quick guides, if you were registered in the EDC for this training at 8:30 a.m. this morning, you got those quick guides in your email. We will post the recording of this session along with those quick guides. If you asked a question that we did not get to, I apologize for that. We will save all of the questions and we will publish a Q&A that includes all of the questions, including the ones that we didn't get to today. So I want to extend a sincere thank you so much to our panelists for joining us again today to share your knowledge. We appreciate everyone who joined us as an attendee today. Be on the lookout for future opportunities to ask the experts. The next one we have scheduled is on using LinkedIn Learning. So, Denny, that was a fantastic segue. That is available for registration in the EDC today if you're interested. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on Ask the Experts.